So Jason Schreier actually has written a brand new article regarding Black Ops 4 and basically the big crunch that's been going internally that we obviously would not yet even know about, and unfortunately a lot of people would not be able to speak up because due to the fact that they have anonymously spoken up about this situation, and since that they were getting so much frustration and so many difficulties in hand as well. I'm going to be pointing out a lot of these stuff specifically coming from all of them. Obviously, a lot of people were, they would not be able to identify themselves due to the fact that, they may get fired from the studio out there, and so they would not be able to find a better job, or I should say a different job. In fact, in this situation, what I've been reading through, I already know a full situation. I've read a whole thing. It's absolutely disgusting and shocking as well that Treyarch, those higher ups I'm talking about obviously, and also the Activision fellas, that calling these shots are absolutely disgusting, and they need to be fired. They need to be put down, even that far. Seriously, they're treating these people as if they're grunts, as if they're like non-human. How's that? That's absolutely shocking to see this. They should not exist. It's for real. It's absolutely disgusting. So as the article starts up regarding that, they were basically the developers of Treyarch, right? They were having an event welcoming the summer interns. That they had some pizzas out there, beer, and so everyone in the studio behind the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 basically accept the testers themselves because they had to leave a little bit earlier. Now, one of the QA testers said that they were only allowed to be there at the party for about the maximum of 20 minutes, and we really shouldn't be drinking anything because we still had to do work, said one of those testers. It sucks, but honestly, we're pretty used to getting these sort of rules when they do anything in the party here. That's what the hell. Anyway, so as Treyarch make contracts employees, right, especially the testers, that they say like they feel like a second-class citizens, basically, non-humans. Testers themselves, right, those people, like they work on the second floor of the office, while most of the other developers are on the first floor. Some of the testers say that they're told not to speak to the developers in other departments, and one told me, as has been referenced to Jason as well from this article, they do this only by secrecy out of the fear of getting fired, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video. When they get to work, testers have to park their cars in a different parking lot than the other employees. One of that, further away from the office, and also when this lunch is catered, testers are told that the food downstairs is for the development team, not for them. Sometimes they're allowed to scrounge for the leftovers, and an hour later, once the non-tester staff have gotten to eat. What the fuck? They're like peasants at this point. They're like, this is like a slavery. What the? Absolutely disgusting. I'm shocked to see that people are still willing to stick around. You know what would be best? If all these testers would just simply leave. I understand completely that this is a harsh word. This is going to be very difficult for them to find a new job. But in the situation that you are in currently right now, is it really worth it? Anyway, as we continue, right, in January of this year, news broke out that the video game publisher Activision had given a cash and a stock bonus worth up to $15 million to its new chief financial officer by the name of Dennis Durkin. They didn't even qualify for the $15 million bonuses regarding it. Now, that broke a lot of people's heart. Like that said one of the testers who left shortly after that he pretty much quit. Like, we're getting paid these very minimal amounts, working these ridiculous hours, yet these people are getting paid an absurd amount of money. That's just culture of not being cared about. I think this is not just being cared about, you're being used the hell out. And man, you did a good job. Leaving, I'm sure I'm going to be much better in the situation that you currently were in that moment. And hopefully you're going to be just fine and what you have to face in the future as well, dude. I'm sure you will be just fine as well. Compared to what we see in the situation. Absolutely disgusting. Anyway, so Activision would not make Treyarch's management available for the interviews, what the hell, or comment on the specific of these stories, but did offer broad written statement attributes to the studio. Now, I'm not gonna read out this complete gobble shit, and this is complete bullshit what they're talking about. This is coming from the Activision more or less in their own statement of complete idiocy, and that they think, oh, everyone's in love, everyone wants to do this. I'm sure that the people will be very much looking forward to this game. They want to put their time and effort, but they want to be treated equally and fairly as well. As we continue at the beginning of 2018, about I think it was 2 years in the development of Call of Duty Black Ops 4, Treyarch employees were called in the conference room for some pretty bad news. We're talking about the campaign mode, which was to be centered on the ambitious 2 versus 2 player multiplayer mechanic that was cancelled. For some studio veterans that they have been longer in here, it felt like it's just pretty much the history is repeating itself. Treyarch's last game, Black Ops 3 as we know it, was planned to feature an open world until the team rebooted midway through the production. So the single player was supposed to be open world, if you guys did not know. I did not know either. Scrapping the open world element map in favor of the traditional linear campaign. This overhaul has led to a difficult period of crunch for many Treyarch employees who have made up for all of the lost work with extra hours. Now they were worried that might have to do the same thing with Black Ops 4 once again. This has also been said by one of the former employees, as he mentions in here. For this to happen twice, morale dropped that happened in the studio can't be understated. After Black Ops 3, we were going to do that again. We're not going to scrap all this work, just you've been putting it in. The campaign team put in extra hours to finish the demo of this 2v2 campaign for the Activision milestone just before Christmas. So a few missions already been done, completed full of art, voice acting, and they went off with their holiday on a holiday break anyway. Everyone crunches really hard to get this one done, and that's what they talked about, of course, as said one of the persons of the team. We got a holiday party and in Las Vegas, the studio heads came up and said, hey guys, you did a fantastic job, everyone's really excited, blah blah blah. After that break, however, the mood has been changed. Over the first few weeks after 2018, Treyarch leadership began informing groups of employees that they were cutting the campaign. Wow. There were technical concerns, timing issues, and according to one of the people who was there, negative feedback from the playtesters who felt that the gameplay was too repetitive. So they decided to pivot, basically make the changes. So the idea was that what if we spruce it up and be more of an explosion in the set pieces, said one of the Treyarch staffer. Then maybe people would get that classic Call of Duty feel from this. But then there wasn't much time left, unfortunately. They were originally scheduled for Black Ops 4 releasing in November, here's the interesting part, as was traditionally for the Call of Duty games, as before we've known. But since Rockstar came in and also very highly anticipated Western game Red Dead Redemption 2, coming from the spring 2018, making their release date on October 26th of 2018. So Activision pretty much decided to shift Black Ops 4 forward to October the 12th, so which meant that Treyarch developers had one fewer month than they actually initially thought. People were saying, how can we do this? Create an entirely new campaign that takes everything we put into the auto mode that was unsuccessful? Is this tells our story? That one of the people worked there and mentioned. After a few weeks, it became clear that developing of a brand new campaign simply wasn't practical. Everyone realizes at this point, this is absurd, this is impossible. This time eliminating the campaign entirely, which left Black Ops 4 with two main components, as we know, the multiplayer and a zombie mode, which people would gun down hordes of the undead. Now, Call of Duty fans would expect more than just two modes, because as we're already familiar, there should be single player, multiplayer and zombies. But there is one missing. So Treyarch leadership had to come up with something else. So it turned out that many of the staff have been playing a lot of the Playground's Battleground, PUBG, and of course Fortnite. So as they came into fruition, why not have a Call of Duty themed Battle Royale? Now we have even a short amount of time to put in the work for a new mode, said the developer. Actually, the developer work on a Blackout didn't start until 9 months after the launch. That felt like much. That mode came together by the seat of its pants. It's kind of a miracle that it did, in fact. Now, according to all of these interviews from the story, right, one of the developers estimated that during the crunch time, they've worked 12 hours from Monday to Thursday, and a standard 8 hours day on Friday, and then another 8 hours on Saturday, in total of 64 hours per week. If things go bad, they said, you do 12 hours Fridays, maybe even Sundays. For those on the lower end on the salary spectrum, getting on the overtime money was only way to live in Los Angeles. Some current and former Treyarch employees shared the anecdotes of themselves or the colleagues running into the financial difficulties other than crunch hands ended, despite the fact that they helped make one of the most lucrative video game series on the planet. Some people have extra jobs, said one, and after their regular 8-hour shift, they had to go to something else or perhaps work on the second job, as an example. There were weeks straight when I was not taking weekends, said a former Treyarch developer. They described that the effect of these hours, panic attacks, burnout, and dissociation, you feel like your boundaries are being violated. You lose all the passion for what you're doing and forget what you were doing it in the first place. It's just a nightmare, in his words anyway. One of the other developers even mentioned that I was told crunch would end after we released the game. Then I was told crunch would end after the winter break. Then I was told crunch would end once we got into the summer. That the same developer left the company in hopes of finding a better work-life balance elsewhere. That's a good decision, man. So, of course, towards the end of the Black Ops 4 development and the months after its release, the company asked its testing department to put in the most hours. The people who I felt sorry for and really bore all those burned were QA members, said one of the former Treyarch employees. Sometimes we were pushing updates twice in a week, which is absurd. As Black Ops 4 was live, it progressively got more broken and buggier, not because of the developers didn't know what the problem was, but because they just didn't have time to fix it. On top of that, it's been already said that by few also other people that were working and testing at the Treyarch was that the office kept turning the air conditioning off at night once all the other developers have left. Although the night air was cooler, the row of computers and consoles, yeah, you can guess it was extremely hot. So, as been mentioned, we're still there and have all these things running. So the temperature would basically spike up to 90-something degrees, said one of the testers. A couple of jokes were made about the sweep shots and all that, but it's just terrifying because it kind of was something, especially in the dead of July. They told us that AC was broken even though it worked all day and turned off at the exact same time each day, said the second tester. No matter how much we pressed them to do something or get it fixed, nothing would happen. Co-workers were literally sweating through their clothing, said a third person. It took 2 months for QA leads desperately emailed the office before Treyarch started leaving their air conditioning on for the night shifts, as the first tester said. Even then they would even forget sometimes. Unbelievable. Most of the development team of the artists and designers program sits on the first floor, right? Other than some of the members of the animation team. They park their cars in the main parking lot, get fed free meals often, and are regularly looped into company meetings, where they get updates on the Treyarch's projects and briefings and about the state of the studio anyway. Now, but the testers operate in a whole different world. They all work on the second floor, crammed together as a group of 10 or 12 people in base meant for 6 or 7. They are told to park in a different lot completely, about 10 minutes to walk from the office. You guys have to walk a long way, so add that to your commute, one tester recalls being told when they were hired. Instead of getting to take breaks for lunch and dinner when they feel like they're getting eating, they had to mandate an unpaid break hours. And although they get catered to dinner during crunch, they're told not to eat the lunch provided to non-testing developers until the hour after it's been served. Sometimes they're told not to touch it at all. Wow. When Treyarch sends out the survey about the company's health, right, testers aren't included. When a company holds all hands meeting, testers aren't invited. Often testers that they ask to work crunch hours with a little notice or transparency, which makes it difficult for them to have lives outside the office. Frequently, said one, we wouldn't even know if we work weekends until Friday nights. The studio keeps so much information from its QA department that when we reported last month that Treyarch will be taking a lead role on the new Black Ops in 2020, testers said that they learned it from Kotaku, the very same article regarding that it's been published by Jason Schreier once again. And it's been said anyway by one of the testers. We didn't know about the new title until your article dropped. Incentivizing talking about the Jason Schreier. A couple days later, we received an email that wasn't meant for us, confirming that their new title, when we tried to ask about it, they said, don't worry about it. Now, there's an interesting as well thing regarding this. There's a perception within Treyarch, like at many other game studios, that QA testers are unskilled and easily replaceable. Even some non-tester Treyarch developers interviewed for the story said that they felt that way as well. Through the development of Black Ops 4 and in the months afterwards, the frequency of the game update led a lot of the bugs, some of which the QA department missed during their testing. Some of those misses might have been due to mistakes or lack of skills. Others were undoubtedly due to the place of the work. A new update would go live and then people would look at the Reddit, said a Treyarch developer. Reddit would say, this is broken, fucking Treyarch. Do they not care about us? That gets passed to QA. Then a meeting is held with QA leads. How did I go through? QA would say, we didn't get enough time. It all leads up to atmosphere which testers feel mistreated. You constantly overhear remarks and jokes about QA, said one of the non-QA developers at Treyarch. People blame them for issues in our game, not catching something. QA is the butt of everyone's joke. Unbelievable. Perhaps that's where would be better the relation between the developers of QA, and if they were allowed to fraternise, or a tester who could spend more than 20 minutes on a company's parties. But testers at Treyarch say that they're told not to talk to developers and vice versa. How can you have this conversation and to make sure that there will be no problems if you can't even have a conversation with the developers and in cases that you are going through, and especially there's just simply no time. Unbelievable Treyarch, unbelievable Activision, especially those higher ups. When I started, I was told explicitly not to interact with the member of the QA, but instead to go directly to the QA leads for any questions that I may have, said one of the Treyarch developers. You could look at that as way to the funnel key information to the appropriate leads for the members of the QA department, so there aren't any redundancies or different people coming to different members of the team with the same request. But the explicit phrasing was that you were not supposed to interact with or talk to them, which was very strange to me. QA was the most part completely removed from the interaction with the development team, the developer said anyway. I think there are a lot of studios you'll have members of QA that are spread across the studio, embedded with their certain teams. At Treyarch is just one department sitting by themselves. It seems like every other month, every other 3 months, there will be a member of the QA team who were leaving and new member brought on, said one of the developers. There was a lot of the churn. You always have these fresh faces in QA. It always felt like someone was leaving and someone was joining. I think where the result is you had a lot of people who weren't trained, who were just expected to perform. When we see a bunch of new Teslas come in after the bonuses go out, that kind of feels bad for us, said one of the Treyarch contractors. Our company parking lot is all flat, and so we can see Jaguars, Teslas, and then you got a better beaten up cars around. You can tell that's probably a contractor. Unbelievable. It's just disgusting to see those sort of things as well. Now, I don't mind about parking stuff and parking cars, but as well because of the QA teams leaving and coming in all together, and that's why you can't have a conversation with the developers, maybe on purposely not to spread the rumors. Maybe that's the whole reason to it, but this is not correct. No wonder why QA teams are leaving, and of course people that are joining, well, I don't believe that they know what kind of situations that they will be expecting to go through until they do, and then they leave once again. There was actually also a survey that were designed to address internal issues after Black Ops 4 and try to figure out how they could all improve for the next project. So the problem though, they only given a survey to full-time staffs. Contractors, as you were expecting, were not involved. We don't even get to part of it and talk about how we were treated, the contractor said. It's a common theme between contractor employees, feeling like their voices aren't being heard. And then you feel like you can't talk to a senior artist or manager lead because you're a contractor employee. You feel like your job is at risk if you say anything. Nobody says that, but that's just how you feel. Talking about the policy as well, that's been left by many contractors quite confused. But in short, straight time meant core hours, meaning that overtime was not included. In other words, if you got sick or you had to leave early one day, you're out of luck. Even the most punctual testers would miss a day or come in late, which would result in them not getting the holiday, said one of the former Treyarch testers. Once the policy change happened, I didn't know of a single person that received a holiday pay after that, even testers who would have been there for well over a year. A lot of people felt like their voices were not being heard, and they had no say in how things were handled, said one of the staffer. There's no cohesion between the different departments like multiplayer, zombies, and blackout. It's like we're all working on the same stuff, but we're all in the different worlds. People said that they felt like they couldn't talk to leads or seniors about issues that they were affecting them. People who are making these managerial decisions are the hiring managers, people in charge of all these departments who make the decisions day to day. They're the ones who benefit from the bonuses, the higher pay, the benefits, said one of the Treyarch contractors. At the end of the day, we're all still there together working on the game, and yet we're all treated differently, as if one of the peasants. I understand completely as well, that they expect for these contractors, or maybe QA lead teams and whatnot, basically they will be leaving and then they can replace them very easily. I can see that point of view as well, because that's why nobody really wants to respect them. But if you keep on doing this, there will never be some kind of improvement or progression. That's also talking about from the dedicated developers as well. Not the QAs, not the contractors, even they felt like something was very, very off about this situation. It's simply unacceptable. They need to improve the situation. I don't think that it might be because of the crunch overall as well that they're having this issue. Crunch is a part of it, don't get me wrong, but everything else that's including. Anyway, well, Jason Schreier made a fantastic, article about this. If you want to read it for yourself, I did miss out on some stuff of his, impressions in there as well a little bit. I will leave down links below in the description. I've taken some parts out of there, obviously taken from the mouths from the co-workers and the former employees as well. And so obviously I wanted to put in my own video as well and talk a little bit about it on top of that. And sprinkle in a bit of my opinion in there as well. Anyway, thank you so much again. And like and subscribe. See you guys all and have a good one.